Hey everybody, it is way early in the morning. I thought I'd do a video before I go out and feed the animals, take care of chores, get ready to go to the JOB. This morning, I want to do a full spectrum preparedness video about comms. I want to talk about the reason why you as a prepper should have a ham license. Now, if you're a homesteader and you're watching this and you're going, why am I listening to preparedness stuff? I'm going to tell you why. Because homesteading is the ultimate expression of preparedness. And you need to listen to this too, because it applies just as probably more so to you than the stuff. Stick around.
Would you yes, clear? Loud and clear.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Grumpy Acres. You know, I'm walking on some conventional wisdom in the prepper community here, and I'm probably gonna upset some people by telling them that I think they're wrong. But there's reason behind why I say that. There's a reason why I say that you need a ham license. Okay, so the conventional wisdom is, I don't want the government in my business like that. I don't want the government to have my name on a list. I don't want the privacy problems. I don't want blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's break this down. Let's start from the beginning and talk about every reason why preppers say that you should not have a ham license. The first big one, what I just said, the privacy issue. You are correct. If you get a ham license, you are on a government website. You are in a database. The FCC holds a database of every single ham radio license holder, and you can look it up. You can look it up. Mine is KE0NIP. You can go look up my name. You can go look up my address. As far as the government's concerned, you're already on a list. You're already on a database. They already know where you live, and it's just that. The government already knows that information. You know, as far as other people, the general public, anybody, and I'm saying this from an IT security guy perspective, because I've held a Security Plus certification for multiple years now. I've had multiple top secret clearances with the DoD, the Department of Energy, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I've held those throughout my life. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just some random dude on the internet saying this stuff, okay? If an adversary wants your information, if they want to know where you are, they're going to find you. They will find that information whether you're in that database or not. All right? It is super simple. The fact that you're on YouTube right now means that somebody has pertinent information. The fact that you do online banking, somebody's got access to that information. If they want it. They may not have it right now, but if they want it, a determined adversary will get that information. You know, if you have antennas on your roof, somebody driving by, you can find this thing. This whole concept of the werewolf prepper, I'm not going to say it amuses me, but I find it interesting, because if you're so afraid that there's somebody out there that's going to come take your stuff, that you're completely shutting yourself off from these other things, you know, making a circle, getting a ham license, doing things like that. You can't live in fear, man. Yes, those people are out there, and yes, there is a definite concern, a security concern about people like that. You can't hide yourself away. You know, one of the reasons why we're on this property that we're on now is because I had a very good friend that was really good prepper. He's the guy that came up with full spectrum preparedness. And, you know, we moved to this community, and I really didn't know anybody. Not the adults. I mean, I youth coached for years, so I knew the parents through, oh, that's so-and-so's mom and dad. That's how I knew parents. That's how I knew adults in the community for the longest time. But he was a lifelong resident there, and I kept getting him to try to build a circle. You know, I was like, dude, you know these people. Let's get a circle together. Let's start meeting people. But he was so concerned about that he would never expose himself to these things. And as a result, when the time came, I decided I needed a circle, and I decided that I needed to do it myself, which is what I should have done from the beginning. To be completely honest about it, I should not have put the burden on him to do that. I should have done it myself. But when I finally decided that that's what needed to be done, I went out and I found a circle. Unfortunately, the circle was in a completely different state, and when it came time to make the decision to sell our homestead and move where we could get support, that's what we did. You know, so instead of being back at our old place with the circle there supporting us, we're here. You know, and that's neither good nor bad. I mean, it's good in the fact that we're here with people that we trust and we really care about, and it's good that we're here debt free. But there's a lot of walking away from an established homestead was hard. It was extremely hard, a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. You know, but that's one of the reasons that happened was because somebody was so afraid of putting themselves out there. All right, so you can't hide away and you can't live in fear. All right, you take precautions where you can, and you put in contingencies to deal with people that may come, the werewolf preppers. You put in contingencies to deal with them. All right. So there's that. There's the privacy issue. Let's talk about how hard it is to get a hand license. I sat through a class when I got my technician license. So I hold my general. So it goes technician, then general, and then the expert. All right. I sat in my technician class, and there was a kid in there with a severe learning disability. His IQ, and I'm not talking bad about him because he put himself out there and he did what it took to take the test. They had to proctor the test for him, which is they basically walk you through the test and ask you the questions and have you answer them verbally. Kid wasn't very intelligent. I mean, his IQ wasn't very high. He passed the test. I know some complete morons, people that they're morons, folks, that have passed this test. It is super simple. If you put your mind to it, you could pass the hand license test for technician in a couple of weeks. You could study and pass it in a couple of weeks. And if you're interested in knowing how, or you want some study suggestions on how to do it that way, leave a comment down below or email me. Our email's on the About page on the channel. Email me. I will send you links. I will tell you how I did it, and you too can get a hand license. So it's easy. And you're going to go, I don't have time. No, you haven't made time. It's just like everything else in the prepping world. It's not that we can't do it, and it's not that we don't have time. It's we haven't made time, and we haven't set aside resources. And that's our biggest hurdle most of the time about stuff. Okay, now, so there's me taking 2 hurdles out of the way of getting a hand license. Now let's talk about the general notion in the prepper community that I've got my box of radios, and it's a Faraday box, and I've got one. I've got an ammo can right over there that's set up as a Faraday box that's got all my handhelds in it, except for the ones I keep out for general use. They're sitting in there, batteries unplugged, everything's unplugged. If something happens, I open that box up after it's all over, put them together, and I've got working radios. The idea that you're going to, okay, let me backstep. And I'm gonna ask this question of specifically any military people out there that are listening to this, and then of any like hardcore prepper. I'm gonna ask you this question. I want you to think about it. Would you send one of your Marines, sailors, seamen, airmen, would you send one of those young troops out there to work a mission with a piece of gear they had never trained on? All right? No, you wouldn't. If you're a prepper, do you think it's realistic that you're going to buy a piece of gear, sit on it, never test it out, never use it, and then when the time comes, you're going to break the package open and be able to use it? No, you're not. And if you're one of those guys that does nothing but buy gear, man, I'm telling you, you need to break that stuff open. And I'm not talking radios. I'm talking about any gear. If you got stuff that you've bought and you've never used it and you've never tried it out, you need to break it open and you need to learn how to use it, because there's a steep learning curve on a lot of this stuff, and it's better to learn that learning curve now when your life doesn't depend on it than when it does. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, radios by themselves are pretty simple. I mean, it's on the surface, it's really simple. Now, learning the gear and learning the ins and outs, man, there's a pretty steep curve there. And the only way you're going to get it, the ham license test is not geared to make you know how to use a radio. What the ham license test is geared at is teaching you the rules, the laws behind it, and giving you some basic safety instructions so you don't kill yourself or burn your house down, which is a distinct possibility. You could actually do that, because we're dealing with radio waves, we're dealing with electricity. There's a lot of stuff there that can hurt you or destroy your stuff. All right, and let me hang on a second. So I got these little Bofang C2s. These are just two-way walkie-talkies. Don't have to have a ham license to use these. GRMS radios, basically. These are pretty simple. Now, I know people that have these in boxes, still in the original packaging, in a Faraday box. They've never used it, and they think they're going to pull these things out and they're going to use them and they're going to be talking like some operator out of a war movie. In case, these things, they say they're 2 watt. Did you know that these are only pushing about 1 watt in actual power? They also say that the packaging on these specific radios say 2 to 5 kilometers. Then in really tiny letters that most people don't read, it says at sea. What's the key feature when you're out at sea? It's flat and there's nothing in your way. So yes, you can talk with these 2 to 5 kilometers, as long as there's nothing in your way. You get in a place where we live down in a valley, and we've got 100-foot cottonwood trees and oak trees and walnut trees and pecan trees all around our property. I'm not getting these outside of my property, and they're good in our little locale, the couple 100 yards around the house. They're good there, but beyond that, they're almost worthless. But that's what I bought them for. I bought it for short-range talking on the homestead, And then this is the other one. This is, this right here. This is a Bofang UV5R. This is probably my favorite radio. Probably the most versatile one. You can run it in GRMS mode. You can run it on 2 meter. It's a 2 meter radio, and you have to have a license to legally use this, to legally talk on this. But I know people that have these. Again, they may have gotten them out and they may have played with them. So this is an aftermarket antenna. The ones that come with the radio are only about that long, and they're not the best. You can't talk very far. First off, again, 2 meter, it's line of sight. Did you know? If you didn't know that, there, you know it now. You can talk long distance with these. This antenna will increase your range. Problem is, go out on Amazon or to stores. There are a multitude of different manufacturers of these, and most of them are cheap Chinese knockoffs, and they're no good. And I know people that have this type of antenna, not this specific brand, but this type of antenna, in their preps that they've never tested to see if it's a cheap Chinese knockoff. And when I say they're cheap, they're so bad that they're worse than the rubber ducky antenna that comes with this radio. They basically render the radio useless. But you don't know that unless you get it out and test it. And to test it properly, to test this radio or any other radio properly, you got to be able to get on and transmit. All right? If you don't have a license, you're running the risk of getting sideways with the FCC. And that's the last thing we need. And quite frankly, the FCC, as long as you're not breaking the rules, they don't care about you. They honestly don't. As long as you're not stepping over restricted frequencies, And I've got, if you look right here over my shoulder, that piece of paper on the wall, that's my ARL frequency chart, and it tells me where I can legally transmit and what frequencies are restricted. Excuse me. You know, so that's important to know. And there's absolutely no reason why we should get sideways with the FCC. Now, let's take it a bit further. So we've talked about this, and this little bowfang here is a pretty powerful little radio. The 5 stands for how many watts it's transmitting at. So they've got the UV8 and the UV9. The UV5 actually transmits at about 3 watts, and you won't know that unless you've studied it and you've practiced with it. But 3 watts will get you quite a ways. So there's the best way to propagate these and use these is through repeaters. There's a repeater out in eastern Kansas that sits on top of a 200-foot water tower. And the old property was about 89 crow miles, you know, flying distance miles from our house to that antenna. I could hit that with this when the weather was good. I could hit that repeater with this radio just like this and be able to talk to people up here where we live now, a good 180 miles away. And the reason was that the footprint of that repeater was so big because it was so high and it gave such good line of sight. My father-in-law is an old school Elmer. He got his license back in the 60s. And he's forgotten more than I know about radios. And he was telling me a story that he lived in Los Angeles, and he took a little 2-meter radio, much like, so back here I've got my radio set, and this one on top with the orange lights, that's my 2-meter rig. He was using a radio like that, and he was talking to Hawaii. Now, how did he talk to Hawaii? Because the curvature of the Earth would eliminate propagating a 2-meter antenna from ground level out to Hawaii. What he was doing was he was transmitting, it was hitting a repeater that sat on top of a 7,000-foot mountain to the east of where he lived, and it was shooting across to Hawaii. And so he was able to talk to people in Hawaii on 2 meters. So this is a very powerful tool. But if you don't know how to use it and you don't know these things because you haven't practiced, then they're worthless. Now, let's talk about something else, and this is 2-meter related. Can you tell me what this is? There's a little connector. Let's see where it is. There's a little connector right there. It's a piece of PVC pipe, and this is about 120 feet of coax cable. So if you're sitting there, you don't have a ham license, and you're not practicing, you're not learning this stuff through practical application, you probably can't tell me what this is. What this is a J-pole antenna. This is, like I said, it's literally coax, PVC pipe, duct tape, zip ties, and a connector that allows me to take this little antenna off and connect my radio to it. And I'm able to take this antenna and run it about 120 feet up in the air. If I can get a rope up there, I can pull this up, and that gives my radio much greater range because I'm much higher up, I'm getting over obstacles. All right, and like I said, we live in a little valley here, and it's 100 feet. If you travel half a mile in any direction from my house, you literally go up about 100 feet to the top of the ridge. Well, and what that's done is I can't use my 2-meter. I can't get out of the valley unless I have an antenna. By my estimations, and I might be wrong by a little bit, but not much, but by my estimations, I've got to have a tower 65 to 85 feet tall just to get out of this valley. Now, once I get the 2-meter antenna up that high, I shouldn't have any problems because I'm up high enough. I can reach that repeater I was talking about. I've got direct line of sight to a couple of people in my circle that I can transmit directly to them without going through a repeater. But you know, if I'm not practicing that and I'm living here and I'm keeping my stuff in a box and I think I'm going to break it out, I'm not going to know that, and you're not going to know that either unless you're practicing. And you can't practice legally unless you've got a ham license. Right. Now, let's go a little bit further. I'm I'm going to throw some more radio stuff at you, and I'm not a radio expert, and I'm not here to tell you how to use ham radios, all right? There's a lot of channels out there and a lot more people out there that are much better versed at talking about radios and teaching you how to use a radio than I am. My purpose here is to get you to understand that you need to go out and you need to go out and you need to watch those people, and you need to practice. So like I said, the over here on this shelf, the one on the right here is my 2 meter, and that's my high frequency rig. All right. Now the high frequency, one of the reasons why I had to get my general license was so I could use that radio, and that radio allows me to talk over great distances. In fact, the way it works is some people are so close to my house that I cannot use that radio to talk to them because it's literally bouncing the signal up into the ionosphere and back down. But with that radio at the old place, I had an end-fed dipole, which, again, if you're not practicing and you're not learning, you have no idea what that is. You don't know the difference between a Yagi antenna and an end-fed dipole. All right. Again, the reasons why we need to know this stuff. And better yet, you don't know how to build an antenna, an end-fed dipole, or a Yagi. That's the important part. That's the important part of having your ham license there, is being able to learn how to build these things and test them to make sure that they work. But, you know, I use that. I was in West Central Missouri with that thing, and I was talking to people in the Dominican Republic, talked to somebody in Puerto Rico. I picked up conversations from Honolulu and Fairbanks. Was not able to transmit to them. Something was wrong. My antenna was set up improperly, and I never did figure out what was wrong, but I could not transmit over long distances, that long of distances for some reason. I'm not quite sure what it was, but I'll figure it out. I'm going to get everything set up here. I just broke all my stuff out by happen chance last week and got it set up. I do not have antennas run because I got to figure out that I'm sitting basically inside of a snow box, and I have to get antennas outside so that I can actually use my radios. I've got them turned on now so that you can see them. But this is all stuff, you know, again, without my ham license, I can't do that, and I can't test this stuff. I mean, it makes no sense. You know, and another thing, grounding, safety measures. You know, how do you protect your antenna and stuff? You know, you have to learn about grounding for safety measures. You're gonna attract lightning with them. And another thing, EMPs and CMEs. Those are a distinct concern. They sent solar flares, which are basically baby CMEs, affect propagation of radios. You know, and if you're not testing it, you're not using it, you don't know that. So you may break your stuff out. You may be able to get on there and turn it on. You may not be able to talk because of propagation issues due to the solar storms and stuff, you know, and EMPs and stuff. I've got now. These are protected by an EMP right now, or from an EMP or a CME right now. These devices are, because I've got an EMP shield on my house. If you're running radio, if you own a house or you're running equipment, I highly recommend you go out and at least look at the EMP shield site, look at the devices, and consider buying one, because they will protect your. They've proven protection against lightning strikes and that kind of thing, and they've done extensive testing, and it's all out there on their page. Full disclosure, I invested in the company. I have a vested interest in it succeeding. I would not be sitting here telling you about EMP Shield unless I believed it, unless I believed in it. With that said, they're protected. Now, again, if I'm not practicing with my radio, I would have never known that I need an EMP shield on my house to protect these, but I also need an EMP shield if I'm running an antenna. If I've got this antenna hooked up to the radio, I need an EMP shield in line on this antenna to protect the house too. Again, if I didn't have my ham license and if I wasn't practicing and learning how to use it, I wouldn't have known that, and I would have been sitting here all fat, dumb, and happy with an EMP shield on my breaker box, not knowing that my antenna feed would allow an EMP pulse or an EM pulse. It's like anyway, that would allow an EM pulse to propagate through my system and blow my system before the EMP shield could protect it, right? There you go. Now, should everybody go out and get a ham license? No, it's not for everybody, I understand that. But if you're a prepper and you're serious about comms, either you should have a ham license or somebody in your circle should have a ham license so that you can practice legally and understand the limitations of the equipment and the laws that you have to work within during regular times, so you can practice it for whenever you actually need it in an emergency. And the idea that you're going to just turn it on and be able to use it is just laughable. And just from personal experience, I'm not mocking you. I'm not telling you you're a fool. I'm just it's laughable that you think you're gonna get out and use it to its fullest effect during an emergency. And if somebody doesn't get a ham license, I'm perfectly fine with it. I will pass your message on in the event of emergency, just like I will anybody else's. That's part of being a ham radio operator. The chances the chances that you're going to be using your radio in some big societal collapse or some big black swan event, truth be told, pretty slim. Pretty slim that's going to happen. Chances are what will happen is that there'll be a natural disaster in your area, and as a ham radio operator, you're going to be able to set up communications where other people can't. Phone lines are going to be down. Towers are going to be out. You're going to be able to pass on information, and you're going to be able to be an asset to your community because you've got your ham license, because you've practiced with it, because you know how to use your gear. You're an asset to the community, and that's what it's all about. We're not here just to survive. We're here to thrive. That's why we prepare. If you're on a homestead, like I said at the beginning of this video, you are doing the ultimate expression of preparedness by living on a homestead. And if you're a prepper, you should be looking to evolve into a homesteader or a prepsteader at least. All right? It all meshes together, and it all interacts with each other, and it's all important. And I cannot emphasize enough, you need to practice. You need to learn how to use this stuff, all right? Look, if I ruffled your feathers and I stepped on some of your conventional wisdom, then good. It probably needed to happen. If you don't want to get a ham license still, you're still afraid of those werewolf preppers, or you're living in fear of your privacy being violated, that's fine. That's fine. But at least now you've sat through this video and you've listened to my reasoning, and you can at least think about it in an informed manner now, right? And that's what this is about. This is about sharing our experiences. Go ahead and hit that notification bell. If you find these full spectrum preparedness videos informative or enjoyable, go ahead and hit that notification bell. I really do. I'm much more comfortable doing the preparedness stuff than I am the homesteading stuff, for the simple fact that I did preparedness for so long. We've only been homesteading for about 8 years. I've been doing preparedness stuff and teaching classes on it for over 2 decades now. So I'm getting more comfortable on the homestead stuff, but right now I'm much more comfortable with the preparedness stuff. Go ahead and share this out. Somebody might find it informative. Somebody that you just want to tweak them and you want to gore one of their sacred cows. Go ahead and share this out with them. Most importantly, I want you to go out today and pursue a lifetime free.
Thanks, Milo.